Hi everyone, welcome to this special session of essay discussion. Um, we have with us the paper of essay, that is Civil Services Main Examination, paper 1. Essay paper we have seen, this time it was completely philosophical. Actually, last year there was a clue about what UPSC is doing with the essay paper. Like first section they had given almost all philosophical topics, and in the second they had given some static topics or the GS oriented or specific topics. But when it comes to this year's essay paper, anyways, the first section is completely philosophical, and when it comes to second one, though few are pointing at history, few are pointing at science, but finally they are also philosophical based only. So today in our session, like, we are attempting to create some dimensions to the topics that have been given by UPSC, and also we are trying to interpret of the topics. And as a reminder for the students, like when it comes to the philosophical topics, like these cannot be, but you can go to any extent to explain those particular things. So one thing, you have to be open, you have to be rational, and whatever that you think and whatever that you brainstorm in that particular time, like that has to be more relevant to the topic. So here we need not make it like a GS. We can go anywhere, but it should make sense. And basically the examples will make such generic topics as specific one. So 7 to 8 examples in the whole essay of 80 to 100 words each, that will make our essay, even in the introduction or in the conclusion, if we start with any of the example also, that will be done. But when it comes to the explanation of the words, explanation of the keywords, we have to be bang on, or we have to be hitting the bullseye. So if you interpret it in a different fashion, then the whole essay will go haywire. So interpretation of the keywords, explaining them in the paper itself, like after your introduction, after you write the thesis statement, you have to explain the keywords. Then the evaluator will come to know, like, whether you know that particular word or not. When you are not knowing it, then you will only come to know that you don't know. That is why the explanation of keywords here is very important. Today, with us, we have our faculty, Umesh sir. He'll be discussing a few topics which have come in the essay paper. So it will be more kind of interactive session while we are discussing the topics. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So the first topic that we are handling today is of philosophy. That is, philosophy of wantlessness is utopian, while materialism is chimera. So how do you go ahead with this topic?
See, this topic, it has some key terms to it. Okay, first and foremost, it has two terms. One is four terms in total. One is wantlessness, and it is associated with a term called utopian. Utopian means, okay, it is a never land. Utopian means it is an ideal world which can never be achieved. It means that wantlessness can never be achieved is one part of the statement. While, okay, materialism is a chimera or chimera it is called. Okay, when it comes to this chimera or chimera is something, okay, which continuously moves. Okay, it's like a mirage. Okay, it's like a mirage with changing goalposts. If you go somewhere, okay, then again it will move forward. Okay, this way materialism, he's saying materialism means our material wants, it will lead to, okay, continuous material wants. It means that after fulfilling one material want, we'll move to the next material want. This way we'll keep on moving ahead when it comes to materialism. So he's saying what wantlessness is ideal, okay, whereas materialism can never be achieved. Okay, complete happiness through materialism can be never achieved, whereas wantlessness is also a ideal state which is very difficult to achieve. So what they're trying to essentially say is both materialism and wantlessness are never achievable. Okay, that is what they're trying to say. Sir, do you have any other perspective?
Sir, first of all, I think in this essay, like, we have to start with any of the example. Maybe we can start with Gandhi, we can start with socialism versus capitalism, we can start with anything. But when we go deeper into the subject, we have to tell them what exactly is the wantlessness also. We need to define that one. Then utopian, what exactly is the utopian? So far, I think in the recent history or the recent past, or from where the history is created, I don't think any utopian system has been created so far. And whenever we, think of utopian, we always think of, okay, after a few years, we are going to see everything utopian. I think that is, again, utopian itself is a chimera kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Then when it comes to the second part of the essay, that is with respect to materialism. See, even when it comes to the practice of this wantlessness, maybe you think of, chastity, think of sannyasa, think of any other dimension where the people don't want. But even the basic needs like food, water, shelter, these are part of again materialism. But when it comes to the philosophies like Jainism and Buddhism, where the like this desireless life started, I think from there we can take off the this one.
Yes, I think a better introduction would be, okay, we can base the introduction out of historical context, okay, wherein materialism was unable to fulfill human aspirations. Similarly, when desirelessness was tried, it also became a failure. So the best example would be, okay, between the Vedic society and Buddhism. When it comes to Vedic society always wanted or aspired for this aspiration of materialism. Okay, in Vedic society, materialism is very, very important. Every one of us know they used to conduct sacrifices. Okay, their aspirations were material in nature. All their sacrifices were also aimed at achieving material things in life. So this materialism as a target was unable to satisfy some very intelligent minds in society, because they started understanding that materialism, okay, after achieving one desire, you will immediately be pushed to one more desire, and these desires, they will be cyclical, and it will start a vicious cycle, and at the end of this vicious cycle, a person will be dissatisfied. So this was the problem with Vedic society, okay, that you can give as an example for materialism as a chimera. Then apart from that, in the introduction itself, we will talk about the people who have tried for wantlessness. So wantlessness or desirelessness is a state which is aimed for by both Buddhism and Jainism. So both of them, they wanted individual human beings to go far beyond the material aspirations. Okay, they wanted to create an individual who is completely free or free from desire. Okay, this is their ultimate state, that is nirvana or kaivalya. All of them, they mean that you have to blow out of your desire. Okay, but this was tried by both Buddha and Mahavira, even though it was practiced by them during their lifetime. Later day, okay, we can see it very clearly that there was a clear tendency of decline of Buddhism, because desirelessness as a state, it is, okay, not possible for individuals. It is too utopian, okay, it is too ideal, and individuals were unable to achieve this state. So this can be given as a very good introduction for this essay, okay, so wherein both the systems are tried, okay, and they became a failure, or they did not succeed as they planned. Okay, then after that,
sir, actually, when we talk about this Jainism and Buddhism, why it failed, because of the austerity that it has.
Yes.
Even today, like we see in Digambaras and all, like they eat only whatever that is held into their hands, and even drinking water only this much. And at the end of their life, they pluck their hair also. So they try to like achieve that utopian system, but how many takers are there? How popular is that? So when it comes to 12th century, because we are coming from the timeline, when it comes to 12th century, when you look at the movements like Veerashaiva movement or the Bhakti movement in Karnataka, so basically they never what went against the system what was there earlier, but along with that, do karma. That is like Basavana told, work is worship. So you like devote yourself to the God also, but meanwhile make sure that you are earning your livelihood, make sure that you are working. I think this would be more appropriate when it comes to the historical aspects of this concept, sir.
Yes, see, when it comes to this same idea, wantlessness and materialism, they are the two important moving factors behind modernity too. Okay, I'll give one example, okay, wherein you can take the help of some thinkers who have thought about and talked about the same aspirations of wantlessness and materialism. When it comes to materialism, every one of us agree that materialism is, okay, the ultimate outcome of capitalism. So capitalism tries to increase the materialism of society as much as possible. So you can take the help of Adam Smith. So capitalism and Adam Smith, they tried to achieve material prosperity. But material prosperity after, okay, we first were pre-industrialized society. Then after that, we went for industrialization. But industrialization also was not able to fulfill all our desires and wants. So because of that, we changed the goalpost now, and we are moving towards a sector wherein service-led growth and fourth industrial revolution also is something which we are seeing today. So it means that slowly the material aspirations, they keep on moving from one place to another. So that is the reason why capitalism, sometimes it might lead to, because of excessive materialism, it is leading to greed. On the other hand, wantlessness was something which was tried by Karl Marx. Okay, he talked about socialism, and this socialism, he tried to achieve a wantless society that he calls as his communist state. In communist state, every person will be fulfilled, and he has all his wants fulfilled. So naturally, you can give the example of Karl Marx and his state of wantlessness, that is communism. And both of these systems, they were unable to, okay, or both of these systems, they failed in fulfilling all human needs. So that we can write as the next dimension of this essay. Then after that, okay, maybe we can talk about one more dimension too, wherein, okay, we talk about the governance system of India. The governance system of India, and in the governance of India too, similarly, we aimed for wantlessness first, and later we moved to materialism. That sir can talk about.
Yes, sir. When it comes to the Maslow's theory, we can bring in Maslow because we are talking of the modern times.
Yes.
Maslow's theory, it tells about first the biological needs like hunger, thirst, sex. Then comes the psychosocial needs. That is about community or association. Then finally it will go to the this one, the metaphysical needs or like the self-actualization. So in this, the very basic thing is the hunger or the thirst and the sex. And definitely, when somebody wants to fulfill that one, that is nothing but a materialistic being. So we cannot call a human being, no matter like in what stage they are, as a like wantless person. Always the human beings wants. Then like slowly, irrespective of your like disposable income, like always from a cycle you will go for a car. From car you will go for again a big car, or from roti kapda makan. When you talked about the Indian philosophy or the governance system, like roti kapda makan, it is for the basic needs. Then we went on to give bijli sadak aur pani. Bijli sadak aur pani, like one human being can live without bijli sadak aur pani, but we went on to give them bijli sadak aur pani. Now we have come to the level that we have to give three basic necessities, that is health, education, and the skill development. So even when it comes to the governance philosophy, like we are moving towards, like from the what you can say utopianism to the materialism. So it like we cannot do away with this materialism.
Yes, so that we can also describe it in terms of the governance model which has been tried in India. Initially, we aimed for wantlessness. Okay, the very idea of socialism, it is based on wantlessness, and this is what we aimed for initially. Now we are moving towards material progress. Okay, and our goalposts have continuously kept on changing, as sir has pointed out, from roti makan kapda to bijli sadak pani, and now we are talking about education, health, and skill development. So this way we have seen a changing goalposts in India. And similarly, even our economic GDP, okay, the aspirations of our GDP also, they have kept on shifting and increasing. First, $1 trillion economy, then 3, now 5. Okay, tomorrow, after achieving 5 too, will not be satisfied there, we'll shift it to $10 trillion. So this way, from an initial aim of wantlessness, that was at the time of 1947, today we moved to an aspiration of $5 trillion economy. So this is how wantlessness to this materialism we had transitioned. So this is one more example that we can give when it comes to this. And along with that, even when it comes to leadership also. Okay, in leadership too, we have seen the similar kind of transition. Okay, take the case of Gandhiji. Gandhiji wanted, okay, a world which is based on wantlessness. Okay, wantlessness was his ultimate ideal. His Swaraj was also self-reliant individual who is not dependent upon the society. He should not have any wants. That was what Gandhi wanted. When it comes to Nehru, Nehru's style was different. Okay, his idea was always material progress of the society, and based on material progress only we will be able to fight poverty. So this kind of idea Nehru had. So we can write the differences between them two as part of this. Okay, so this is one more thing that we can do, and similarly we can give many international examples also for the same. Okay, different countries also are aiming for the same things. Yes. Okay, today we have seen that some Scandinavian countries, they are moving towards this wantless nature of society, okay, through some things like a universal basic income that sir can talk about. Okay,
sir, when it comes to the economic calculations or the calculations of GDP or something, in the last decade we have seen one more indicator, that is gross national happiness. Yes. That is practiced by some of the countries. Even I think Scandinavian countries are going towards that one. But when you take the gross national happiness itself, even it includes lot of like materialistic indicators also. Materialistic indicator. It is not just about like how happy you are, what you have got. When you say what you have got, what you possess, and what you dispose, that itself is materialism. Yes. And when you talked about Gandhiji and Nehru, one example I just want to quote. So whenever they want to participate in some of the movements and all, like they used to travel, always Gandhi preferred the general class. Yes. So he used to go in general class. In the same train, Jawaharlal Nehru used to go in the high class or the first class bogie. So that itself is the like the best example what we can give. And today, like whatever the product as India, what we have, the imagination of India, it is a product of both. So we cannot do away with either this one or that one. We have to go for the middle path. And when it comes to the practice in India for the economic aspects also, we practice mixed economy. We don't go for either socialism completely nor for the capitalism completely. We address our socialistic needs through our capitalistic means. So this can be the the last concluding lines what we can give
on. And when we take this dimension, as sir has pointed out, okay, we have finally proved through the 5-6 dimensions that we have discussed that neither wantlessness nor materialism is achievable, or both of them are very distant dreams for humanity. So both of them have their own problems. So this we have made it clear through the 5-6 dimensions that we have discussed. And now if we have to pick up an alternative dimensions, because in philosophical essays usually it is needed, okay, that you pick some alternative dimensions and explain it through these alternative dimensions. This is very, very important. And here, so you are unable to achieve wantlessness, you are unable to achieve materialism too. So what we need to do is either we can go for, okay, the middle path of Buddha, or otherwise we can take recourse to Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita, it very clearly states that, okay, no individual is wantless. Even a sannyasa who has renounced the world, at least for his basic needs like food, okay, water, okay, he has to depend on the environment, and he will be having some wants, because human being by nature, he has these wants like food, okay, water, and these kind of basic needs even a sannyasa has to fulfill. So wantlessness is an impossible ideal. That is what Bhagavad Gita very clearly states. And apart from that, okay, the other aspect, that is materialism. Excessive materialism will also lead to greed at individual level, and it leads to dissatisfied life, because materialism after a point of time, it will not lead to pleasure or happiness in life. So both of these dimensions, according to Bhagavad Gita, both of these pursuit of both of these things is not going to be successful. So what Bhagavad Gita says is that you need to have wants, okay, because wantlessness is not a ideal state. Okay, you need to have wants, but these wants, okay, they should be performed, or the duties which come from these wants, they should be performed without any, okay, without any clinging for the results of your action. Without any clinging for the results of your action, that is known as nishakama karma. So wherein you are trying to balance between wantlessness and materialism. Okay, you aspire for materialism, but whatever you achieve, you try to renounce it. So this is what you can write as a transitory paragraph, okay, where you are changing your perspective and you are giving a new perspective, wherein wantlessness and materialism, they have some middle thing, which is known as nishakama karma, wherein you aspire for material things, but you renounce the final product of your materialism. So this is something which we can talk about, okay, and the best example for this is our Gandhi himself. See, because he also had the want of pushing away the Britishers from India. He is not a sannyasi, he is a politician who wanted to kick out the Britishers from India. But even though he was successful in beating the Britishers, he was having some wants. But the final outcome, that is independence, after attaining independence, he never aspired for any post. He renounced independence for the sake of nation. So this is something which is very important, and you can say that, okay, this is the middle path that Gandhi has taken. Then apart from that, even you can give the example of many Indian capitalists too. Okay, they are not wantless, they are having some wants, okay, but the final product of these wants, that is earning money, they try to renounce this money. Okay, you can give the example of Azim Premji, Narayana Murthy, okay, even Mark Zuckerberg for that matter. All of them, they are earning money through their material aspirations, but what they are doing is they are renouncing the final outcome of their material prosperity. That is what philanthropy is. And philanthropy is also, as we can give it as an example for, okay, inclusiveness, okay, and along with that, even
the idea of sustainability, that is the product of nearly, I mean, like it is basically a product of our Brookline Commission report. So sustainability or sustainable development existed from there. So there we tried to balance between the economic development and the environmental protection. So when it comes to economical development, again, the basic ingredient is in the growth itself. So growth, social development, and environmental protection. So when we combine all together, somewhere we are trying to coalesce this wantlessness and also the materialism. So as a human being, we have to consume, we have to live, and we have to earn our livelihood. But the other aspects of life which are not human centric, for that definitely we have to go ahead with the sustainability and also the inclusiveness. And when we started this essay with Buddhism and Jainism, we can conclude with Buddhism also, because Buddha himself preached about wantlessness, and he never wanted like some materialistic aspirations have to be there, because that is the main cause of any kind of sorrowness. So that he had told. But again, for the propagation of his ideas, what they were built from his followers or his disciples or something, again it is for the propagation. For that propagation also, for building chaityas, viharas, giving food to the bhikshus, all that thing, again it is nothing but like, not I can say like completely devoting towards the materialism, but again like going towards the materialism. So finally, we can wind up that utopian thing will never exist, and this wantlessness will never exist, and also the materialism, it doesn't have any kind of end. So somewhere we have to draw a line between this materialism and wantlessness, and we have to lead a very sustainable life. That's it. We have to.
As sir has pointed out, even we can give the example of most of our Bhakti and Sufi thinkers also. They never renounced the household world. Okay, they wanted to balance between both these aspects of materialism and wantlessness. Okay, so this is something which is an aspiration for India, and my opinion is every leader and civil servant, okay, they also need to have a similar attitude. Okay, wherein they want to, okay, fight against poverty in society. But the outcome of a fight, okay, let's suppose they develop the skill of some individuals. But this skill development, it should be done in the aspect of renunciatory tradition. That is, the outcome of skill development should be left to the people. It should not be taken by the government. So this is something which we can give as a conclusion, and this would be a good conclusion for the essay. I hope so that we have made a decent enough discussion on this aspect. Okay, so this finishes the discussion on this essay.
We'll go to the